Hey, welcome to The Explainer. You ever hear those big corporate buzzwords like vertical integration and kind of feel your eyes glaze over? Yeah, don't worry. Today, we are going to demystify some of the biggest ideas in business strategy, and we're going to do it with something we all get, a really good cup of coffee. So let's jump right in.
So, have you ever really stopped to think about this? You see these giant companies that seem to do everything, from the raw materials all the way to the final sale. But then you see other companies that are just laser focused on being the absolute best at one single thing. Well, that's not by accident at all. It's a huge strategic choice, and it gets right to the heart of what we call the control versus focus dilemma.
All right, to really get our heads around how leaders make these massive choices, we're going to do something fun. We're going to build a business right from scratch. So forget the spreadsheets in the boardrooms for a minute. We're opening our own coffee shop. And believe it or not, the decisions we make for this one little cafe are going to unlock the exact same logic behind some of the biggest corporate strategies on the planet. Okay, so before we go and build our coffee empire, we got to figure out what game we're even playing. This isn't just about, hiring baristas or picking out the right kind of beans. We're talking about the really big picture here. Okay, take a look at this chart. It's super important. You see, there are different levels of strategy. We're not talking about the business level. That's all about how to beat the other cafe across the street. Nope, we are focused way up here at the corporate level. This is where you ask the huge questions, like, should we only sell coffee, or should we own the farms that grow the beans? Maybe we should get into making coffee mugs. See? It's not about how to win, it's about deciding where we even want to compete in the first place.
All right, so let's check out path number one for growing our little coffee shop. What if we decided that to make the absolute best coffee, we need to control everything? I mean, from the second that bean is planted to the exact moment it's poured into a cup. This is the path of total control.
And yep, this whole idea has a fancy name, vertical integration. It sounds a little intimidating, I know, but the idea is actually super simple. It's just when a company decides to take over the jobs that its suppliers or distributors used to do for it. Basically, it means you stop paying other people to do stuff and you start doing it yourself, owning more and more of the chain. So you can see that whole chain right here, from the raw materials all the way to the final customer. Now, if our coffee shop decides to move up the chain, or upstream, and buy the farm that supplies our beans, we call that backward integration. And if we decide to move down the chain, downstream, and start our own delivery service, that's called forward integration.
Okay, let's make this totally real for our coffee shop. Our main thing, our core business, is running the cafe. Now, if we go out and buy a coffee farm in Colombia, that's backward integration. Boom, we control our supply. Then, what if we start our own delivery service for all the offices downtown? That's forward integration. We're controlling how our coffee gets to new people. And just like that, we own the whole shebang, from bean to cup.
Now, this isn't just some made-up coffee shop dream, right? Look at a real-world giant like Pertamina. They do the exact same thing. They explore for crude oil, that's their coffee farm. They have their own refineries, that's our roastery. And then they sell it directly to you at their gas stations, and that's their cafe. They have total, complete vertical control over the whole energy supply.
Okay, cool. So that was path number one, taking control of the whole supply chain. But what if we're not really interested in farming? What if our only goal is to be the undisputed king of coffee shops on our block? Well, that leads us to a totally different path. This next move is called horizontal integration. And instead of going up or down the supply chain, you guessed it, you go sideways. You just start buying up your competitors. The other folks are doing the exact same thing that you are. So for our business, let's just forget about the farms and the delivery trucks for a second. Instead, we look across the street at Brenda's Beans and Carlos's Cafe, and we make them an offer they can't refuse. We buy them both. We merge three rivals into one giant coffee powerhouse. And just like that, we are the only coffee game in town. So what's the upside? Well, it's pretty massive. First, no more competition. And we get something called economies of scale, which is just a fancy way of saying we can buy our milk and beans for way, way cheaper because we're ordering for 3 shops instead of 1. But let's be real, the downside is also pretty big. Mashing 2 different company cultures together can be a total nightmare. I mean, what if their baristas just hate our way of doing things? And of course, there's always the risk you just plain paid too much for your rival. And if you want to see a huge, real-world example of this, just look at the merger of Gojek and Tokopedia that created GoTo. You had 2 of the biggest tech players in the entire region, both fighting for the same customers, and they just decided, let's join forces.
They completely consolidated the market to build one massive digital ecosystem. That is horizontal integration on an absolutely epic scale. Okay, so we've talked about controlling everything up and down the chain and controlling everything side to side. But what if there's a third way? What if we decided to actually do less? What if we decided to just focus on the one thing we do better than literally anyone else? And that brings us to strategic outsourcing. It's basically the polar opposite of vertical integration. Instead of trying to do everything yourself, you figure out what you are truly world-class at, what they call your core competence, and then you pay other experts to handle everything else. Let's go back to our little coffee shop. We have to be honest with ourselves. Our core competence, the thing we're amazing at, is making incredible coffee. But our croissants are, let's be honest, kind of terrible. They're a non-core activity, so instead of trying to become mediocre bakers, we outsource. We find the best bakery in town and make a deal for them to supply all our pastries. We focus on the coffee, they focus on the croissants. Everybody wins, right? And this all boils down to that classic business question, the make or buy decision. You keep the stuff that's absolutely core to your mission in-house, and you outsource the things that aren't. And we see huge companies do this all the time. Astra knows it can't be the best at logistics, so it lets experts handle that. Tech unicorns pour every ounce of energy into their code and their data, while other companies handle things like their customer service calls. It all comes down to one powerful idea. Focus on what makes you truly, uniquely great. Okay, so we've laid out 3 totally different playbooks, right? Vertical integration, horizontal integration, and strategic outsourcing. You can control everything, buy your rivals, or just focus on what you do best. So how on earth does a company actually choose which way to go? Well, frameworks like this one, the Strategic Choice Matrix, can really help. And it pretty much comes down to 2 simple questions. First, how important is this activity to our ultimate success? And second, can we do it cheaper or better ourselves than anyone else? So if something is strategically vital and it's more efficient for us to do it, like, say, perfecting our signature coffee blend, the matrix says, yep, vertically integrate. But if it's not core to our mission and it's cheaper to just hire an expert, like doing our taxes, then we should absolutely outsource. But here's the thing, and if you take away just one idea, let it be this. There is no universal right answer. There's no magic formula. The sources we looked at are crystal clear about this. Context is everything. The right decision always comes back to a deep understanding of your own unique strengths, your core competence. What is the one thing you can be the best in the world at? Your entire strategy should be built to protect and supercharge that one thing. So let's recap our 3 main blueprints one last time, shall we? You can go with vertical integration to control your whole supply chain, which is a great move if you're worried about quality or supply. You can choose horizontal integration to get big fast and totally own your market, but you better be ready for some tricky mergers. Or you can pick strategic outsourcing for radical, intense focus, which lets you be the best at one thing while experts handle all the rest. So there you have it. We went from one little coffee shop to a potential global empire. You've seen the 3 core playbooks that literally shape the world of business all around us. So now the question is back on you. You've got the blueprints. If this was your company, what would you build?